Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
This is one of my favorite interviews I have ever conducted. When I think of the Mount Rushmore for North Dakota and its basketball players that have come out of this great state, this guy is on it. His name is Jeff Boschee. He played high school basketball at Valley City. He went on to become Mr. Basketball in this great state of North Dakota after his senior year. And after his high school career, he was recruited by Roy Williams of the Kansas Jayhawks. While at Kansas, he was a 4-year starter. He holds the record for three-point field goals made for the Jayhawks, and he was the Big 12 tournament MVP in 1999. He led the Jayhawks to the 2002 Final Four. After his playing career, he went into coaching where he became the MIAA Coach of the Year. He's now the head boys basketball coach of Pittsburg State. And oh, by the way, he has a book out now called Long Shot. It's a fantastic book. I highly suggest it. But I love talking to Coach Boschee because of a couple things. He shares these incredible insights about being recruited by Roy Williams, then playing for Roy Williams, and just some of the teammates he had. Kirk Heinrich, Drew Gooden, Wayne Simeon, all these great, fantastic players that played for the Jayhawks. And also, what a transition it was to be a player from North Dakota, then to go to the Jayhawks. I mean, it was phenomenal. But before we get to Coach Boschee, we got to talk about PSP Network. It's game day. They've been promoting local student athletes for a very long time. Right now, they're right in the heart of golf season, so make sure you check out PSP Network on their website. That's psp.network, or subscribe to their channel at PSP Network. Nick Holberg and the crew do an amazing job. I'm looking forward to getting into football season with them. Going to be calling some games, and appreciate them coming to be a sponsor for us. Next up is the great, the powerful Rivers Edge Bar and Grill. They're known for offering the best happy hour in town, providing unbeatable deals in a lively atmosphere. Guests can also enjoy a variety of entertaining activities, including bingo, trivia, and the very popular Name That Tune. Make sure to check them out in Williston, North Dakota, and come on down for great drinks, great food, and great fun. It's Glosso Angus. They're a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons, area premier source for registered black Angus cattle since 1973. Glosso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and my favorite word, docility, and they're built to thrive on the northern plains. Check them out online. That's Glosso, Glasoe, Angus.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here today. My name is Dallas Hanson. Here we go with one of my favorite people, Jeff Boschee. Dude, this is a big honor for me, man. First off, I want to thank you as a kid growing up in North Dakota to have a role model and to fall in love with the game of basketball like I did. You were a big part of that. So first off, I've been waiting a long time to say it. So thank you, man, for the love you created for a lot of people here in the state of North Dakota. How have you been? And how are things going down there at PITT State?
Well, I've been good, man. I've been in coaching ever since I stopped playing. I played a couple years overseas in Greece and Iceland, and then it's a lot different back then with going overseas, and now you got as far as just a living arrangement. Back then, we didn't have Netflix. We didn't have, just everything at our disposal, at our hands with shows and just keeping yourself busy. So like, being overseas and, living in Greece and, living in an area that didn't barely speak any English and having no English, speaking TV, that was tough. So I kind of got, I would say homesick, but just I didn't want to do that anymore. So I always knew I wanted to get into coaching probably about my junior year in college when I kind of realized, the NBA probably wasn't going to be a thing that's, going to be a possibility as far as, maybe have a chance to do it a little bit, but wasn't going to make a career out of it. So I just kind of got burnt out of the back and forth, league to league of the minor leagues. And I decided to get into coaching. And I think it was around 2004, 2005, and started as a volunteer assistant at a high school down here, Blue Valley Northwest, under Ed Fritz, who's a really good high school coach. Is still coaching in the Kansas City area. It's a the high school, Christian Brown from KU.
Who was phenomenal. I mean,
really good player and
wow.
doing good things for the Nuggets. And then I was fortunate enough to get a head job at the Barstow School, which is a private school in Kansas City, Missouri. And from there, after 3 years of being the head coach there, I moved on to Missouri Southern as kind of a part-time, full-time assistant coach. And then did that for 4 years, got promoted towards the end to associate head coach, and then took over when my boss retired. And I was there for 12 years, 8 as the head, 4 as an assistant. And then when this job opened up here at Pitt, and my boss now, Jim Johnson, called me and asked me if I'd be interested. It's definitely something that intrigued me, and he brought me over and kind of explained everything here at Pitt. And North Dakota fans and North Dakota people would probably know PITT State just because of the football battles North Dakota State and PITT State had back in the early 90s. So I actually knew about PITT State growing up. And then obviously coming down here to Kansas to play collegiately, we always played PITT State. I think we played them twice in my 4 years at KU in the exhibition game. So knew about them, and actually I tried to get this job when I was a head coach at Barstow in Kansas City as a high school coach. Didn't get an interview. Obviously was pretty disappointed in that, but all things come full circle, and I'm here now and really enjoying the community and really enjoying just PITT State athletics, because it does have a brand. Everywhere we go, as far as recruiting, whether it's in Dallas or Chicago, everybody knows, at least somebody knows who the Gorillas are, and it's a pretty cool deal, especially at the Division II level.
Yeah, man, I love that shirt, the colors, everything. I got to get some merch there. So PITT State merch, rep my guy Boschee. How has something I love? I've been talking on this podcast to a lot of college basketball coaches. Coach Selvig from Dickinson State talked about this. A couple of JUCO guys I talked to. But how has the portal been?
It's kind of a double-edged. I always say it's a double-edged sword. I mean, we can probably, at our level, get a kid now that we probably couldn't get before. But I think and I think this goes with a mid-major coach at the Division I level. It goes with a low-major coach. I mean, I think it's even trickled down to the NAIAs now, and obviously at our level, Division II. But you got to be okay with understanding you may get a better high school kid, and you're going to put a lot of time into develop them, and you're going to give them a lot of experience, and you got to be okay with them pursuing their dream of Division I basketball. I was talking to our track coach who's won, I think, 4 straight national titles on the men's side the other day. And, we were just saying we're kind of a glorified junior college now at the Division II level. And I've talked to many low major, mid-major Division I assistant coaches, and they say if they're not doing their job, if they're not looking at Division II basketball and the best players in each league. And so it kind of works both ways. Like, we had the player of the year this past year, a point guard from Memphis as a sophomore. We tried to do everything we could to keep him, and he wasn't planning on transferring at the end of the year. But when you got so many people in his ears, you got coaches calling his people back home. You can't blame the kid, and especially when they're getting the money that's being thrown around. It's hard to get that, and I understand it. I just wish it was around when I was playing. Not the portal, but the NIL aspect of it.
Really would have gave you some cash.
Because maybe I may not be sitting in this chair talking to you right now.
Well, I want you to take me back. Take me back to Valley City when you first knew, okay, this game of basketball is going to change my life for the better.
Well, it is always something that just, I don't know if I always loved it growing up. I really, really liked it. And probably not till my 8th grade or freshman year in high school is when I really kind of fell in love with it. I started to get some regional exposure. I would go down and, Tom Billiter, who actually I coach against now at Emporia State, he was the head coach at North Dakota State for a while when I was an 8th grader and freshman year. And I would go down to North Dakota State. I would drive down after school, and I'd just sit there in the VSA and just kind of shoot around and wait for the guys to come on the court to play pickup. And
Wow.
first couple times it was, towards the end they needed some bodies, and I'd get in there and eighth grade, ninth grade, you're going down there that could be a little intimidating, but I went in there and I made some shots, when in kind of the ending parts of the pickup games when they get sloppy, and then a couple of the guys kind of embraced it, and they said, hey, here's the days we're playing, come down if you want to come play, blah blah blah, so I did that, and Coach Billiter was really the first one to see me, and the first one to he offered me as a freshman, and it kind of all started from there. And the thing that when I really realized I thought I had a chance to do something and be a Division I basketball player was probably my sophomore year, but then it really took off my junior year, going into my senior year when I went to. Back then, Adidas had their top 120 kids and Nike had their top 120 kids. And so I got invited to the Nike All-American camp. And that's really where I really made my name. I went up against a kid named Kevin Braswell, who was, I think, at the time, number 2 or 3 rated point guard in the country. And I had 40 points against him and really outplayed him, and had a couple other games where I had 25, 22 against some really good point guards. And then our team actually won the camp championship against Eric Barkley, who played at St. John's. He was the number 1 point guard, and really outplayed him. And that's when it started to get pretty insane with the amount of coaches calling, and kind of got a little overwhelming at times, and then I narrowed my choices down and ended up deciding with Kansas. But that's kind of the whole deal. But growing up in Valley City was it's kind of unique, because nowadays every kid that goes to a gym, you got to pay, or you got to remember to go somewhere. But we had a place called the Armory, the old Armory. It's kids, it was open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you could go in there, shoot baskets for free. They had, 4 courts in there, and I played noon ball every single day from Monday to Friday, and, lift down in the weight room downstairs, and just had unlimited access to the gym. And I was pretty religious with my workouts too. I mean, my brother gave me about 3 workouts that I rotated every other day, and really worked on my game. I didn't have my brother, when he'd come back, we'd work me out, but I didn't have a trainer. All these kids have trainers now, and they're have to work with somebody. I was at the point where, I did my workout, I chased my rebounds, and that was part of my conditioning. And so growing up in Valley City was a great experience. And I always, I always say, growing up in North Dakota is the people in North Dakota are just, it's so down to earth. And I think that's one thing that really helped me, especially at Kansas, just being level-headed, being humble, understanding where you came from.
Hey folks, are you craving authentic, mouth-watering smoked meats? Well, let me tell you where to go. It's Bronson's Smokehouse in Beulah, North Dakota. They've been serving up legendary country-style sausage, jerky, and Slim Jims for over 40 years. Order online today at bronsonsmokehouse.com. That's Bronson's, BRONSONS, smokehouse.com, and taste the tradition. What were your top 5 coming out of high school top 5 colleges?
I narrowed it down to KU, Minnesota, Duke, Iowa State, and Arizona. I eliminated Duke fairly early on just because it was just a little too far. North Carolina was a little too far for me. Arizona, I got to know Lute Olson. He did a really good job recruiting me.
North Dakota guy?
Yeah, North Dakota guy. So had that in common. And Iowa State, really the only reason Iowa State, because Tim Floyd offered my brother an assistant coaching job. And then Minnesota, and Minnesota was probably Minnesota out of those 5 recruited me the longest. I think I went down to their camp my sophomore year and was the MVP of their camp down there, and they offered me, and so they recruited me for a long time. And Dave Thorson, who was my AAU coach with the now they're called the Howard Pulley Panthers, but at the time we were Minnesota Streets. He was an assistant coach for Clem Haskins for a while. So that was another, reason why Minnesota was in there. And then obviously KU would just, I always, looked up to Coach Williams. I always enjoyed watching his teams play, and it's, it's Kansas, it's a blue blood. And I remember coming downstairs from working out. My brother was downstairs at my parents' house, and he's like, "Hey, are you gonna?" This is mid-August. He's like, "You gonna make a decision?" I'm kind of getting sick and tired of all these coaches calling me, and he's like, "I know you want to go to Kansas," and I was having a really tough time with Arizona and Kansas, like what I want to do there, and ultimately it came down to just Coach Williams and being a little bit closer to home.
What was it like to be recruited by Coach K?
I mean, they're all the same. I mean, they sell you a dream, they sell you the story, and what their plans for you are. The people, the kids that they got coming back. I mean, it was no different than Coach Williams recruiting me and Lute Olson, but all very obviously highly respected coaches, but I mean, it was no different than anybody else recruiting. Yeah.
First time you met Roy Williams was when?
Well, the first time, back then, so.
Was that one of the Minnesota things?
What's that?
Was it at one of the Minnesota, camps?
No, it was at the Nike All-American camp, but I didn't meet him, because, obviously the rules, back then you could only talk on the phone, one time a week. Obviously we didn't have text messaging back then. But I remember, one of the games, that I played at the Nike camp, and my brother was there with me, and he's like, "Did you see who was at your game today?" And Coach Williams was sitting underneath the basket, just sitting on the floor. And I was like, "Yeah, I saw Coach Williams sitting there." He's like, "You know who he was there watching?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "He was there watching you." And he's like, he called me this morning, and this was in the evening when Mike, my brother, had told me that, and so I didn't know, because he couldn't text me, couldn't call me, because I was at camp all day, and I was in my hotel room in the evening, and so my brother told me that, and he told me he had talked to Coach Williams, and my AAU coach had talked to him, and then so I think it was maybe the next day is when he got my hotel room and called my hotel room and offered me a scholarship.
That is so awesome, man. Yeah. That had to spark just a new sense of purpose in your soul when you hear that from your brother.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it gave me, a ton of confidence, and he was literally at about, I would say, almost every one of my AAU games the entire summer. And I remember him saying to me, he said he's going to make a point to make every single one of my AAU games the rest of the summer. And I'm not sure if he missed one.
That is so great, man. He's the GOAT. So you win Mr. Basketball your senior year at Valley City. What did that mean to you?
Obviously it's the top ward and in North Dakota, and it was special. I think that's just something. I don't know if it was something that I always like. That was a goal, I think, right, per se, but I think it just accumulated all the hard work that you put in, the recognition, and winning that is pretty special. But there's an elite few that win it, and just extremely proud that I could represent North Dakota like that, and be considered, one of the best players to come out of there.
So one thing that happened to me when I moved away from home, from Crosby to Dickinson, which is 3.5 hours, I got a little homesick. How was it moving from Valley City to Kansas? I mean, you had to be a little homesick, or what was the transition process like for you?
It was my freshman year, and maybe even a little bit my sophomore year. My sophomore year, I struggled a little bit. I had a great start to the year, my sophomore year. And then I really went into a shooting funk, and I got taken out of the starting lineup for, I think it was 2 games. And that really hurt, nowadays and age, I think a lot of times something like that happens. Sometimes kids are calling parents and, all right, we need to find a new place, and talking to my brother and talking to my dad and stuck it out. And, we had really good player in Kirk Heinrich, obviously made an unbelievable NBA career, and they slid him to the 1. And after those 2 games, coach decided to slide me to the 2 and start me at the 2. And I really flourished in that and really just playing basically a 3-point guard lineup, especially my senior year. We had Aaron Miles who slid in there as a freshman, Kirk Heinrich at the 3, and then myself at the 2. And I would say watching us play, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but watching us play my senior year was very comparable to the way teams play now. We spread the floor, we ran, we pitched it, looking to pitch the basketball ahead, shot a ton of threes, got the basketball inside, played inside out. So that sophomore year of mine was tough in that aspect. But my freshman year, there were times, missing friends. Thankfully, we didn't have social media back there to see everything going on back home, so that made it a little bit easier. But, every kid, I think, that goes to college and moves away from home goes through that. And it's fighting through that and understanding it's going to make you better. It's going to help you grow as a person, and it's going to make you the man that you are. And sometimes you got to go through tough times to make it in life. And, it's something that everybody goes through, but it was a great experience.
Roy Williams, when I was getting into coaching, I went to Las Vegas, me and the head coach, and Roy was talking. And he talked a lot about like defending on-ball screens and stuff like that. And he had like a microphone line from his face down to his shorts, and he kept swatting at it.
He get mad at it?
Yeah, he was getting mad at it, and he kept like swatting at it. And then he finally realized it was the wire, and he goes, I thought it was bugs, daggone wire. Like, he was just the coolest guy of all time. When you get to Kansas, what was your like come to for better words, come to Jesus moment when you're like, okay, this is different practices? I mean, what was a practice like with Coach Williams?
I loved my high school coaches, good coaches, but the practice didn't even come close to what Coach Williams' practice was. I mean, it was hard. It was hard. And we had a player named Jelani Janice who didn't play a ton. He was a JUCO kid from California who had an unbelievable junior college career, but just never could really transition to what our level was. But he was one of the best defenders that I've ever played against. Like 6'4", strong as an ox, quick as a cat. And I went against him every single day in practice. And, a lot of people don't know this, but I kind of got thrown into the starting lineup. We had a player named TJ Pugh, who was the starting 4-man the year before. And he got hurt with an ankle injury in the preseason and was out, I think, until maybe the end of December. So that moved Nick Bradford into the 4, and then moved me into the starting lineup, and Ryan Robertson moved down to the 2 spot. Ryan Robertson would have been the starting point guard. So I kind of got thrown in there and, just got fed to the wolves. And, he was hard on me. And I've never been pushed so hard in my life. And, it's one of those things, like it's a fine balance of, do you destroy a kid's confidence and with getting on him so much, and then also praising him. And I thought he did a really good job of balancing it. And it was extremely tough, especially having Jelani guard me every single day, because he was so good defensively. And there was so many times where he just picked my pocket, just dribbling the basketball up the floor and get a little frustrating and getting down on myself. But then the days where I'd have really good days too, but it made me such a better player. It made me be able to handle a butt chewing from coach, and it's one of those things where if a coach is getting on you and he's yelling at you, there's a reason, and it's because he believes in you. If he's not talking to you and he's not saying anything to you, he probably has no interest or doesn't believe that you can be very good. So now as a coach, I understand why he was so hard on me, is because he wanted me to be better. He needed me to be better. And, but yeah, it was tough. I mean, we were talking 3-hour practices, and you got weights before that, you got treatment, you got study halls, you got tutors. It's a full-time job. And, even when I'm recruiting kids now today and they're sitting in my office, I'm trying to get them to understand that even at this level, it's a full-time job, and you got to be ready to start your day at 7:30, 8 a.m. And you sometimes you may not get back to your dorm or to your apartment until 8 o'clock at night, and that's something you've got to really love it if you want to be good at it. But going back to it, he pushed me, and it was hard. There were some times I felt like crying, but it made me better.
Well, it's almost like that. You want to be good or great. It's there's a simple line. You want to be good or you want to be great.
Doc Rivers say great players want to be told the truth, and average good players want to be coached, and average players want to be left alone. So, it's a good thing he did it.
Some of those Kansas State games with you guys and the Jayhawk, Kansas versus Kansas State. I mean, take me through some of those games, because that's a phenomenal rivalry. Yeah,
it was. I always feel like I had really good games against Kansas State. At the time, they weren't very good. I'm trying to think of their coaches. Tom Asbury was my freshman year, and then an NBA guy came in the next 3 years. I can't remember his name. He's with the Chicago Bulls. But honestly, the biggest rivalry was Missouri. I mean, Missouri was really good. I mean, my senior year, they went to the Elite Eight. My freshman, sophomore year, they had a player named Keon Dooling, who was in my class and ended up having a great NBA career. They had Clarence Gilbert, who was in my class, a really good, like 6'3" shooter. They had a bunch of really good players around them, but really Mizzou, like, it's a different, like, I don't know how it is anymore. And obviously we don't play Mizzou every year now, but the Missouri rivalry was like hatred. I mean, it was straight hate. Yeah. I mean, I can remember going to Columbia my first year as a freshman, and they have this group of, I think they still have them, but they're called the Antlers. And they are just this group of, I don't know, it's like a fraternity, and they are relentless. I mean, they were calling my parents like 3 in the morning. They're calling, somehow they got my parents' phone number. They got my phone number in the dorms and at KU, calling us at 2, 3 in the morning, leaving nasty messages on our answering machine. I remember getting to the hotel, and about 2 in the morning, the night before the game, they're running down our hallway, pounding on all of our doors. So somebody obviously gave them our room numbers. They're pounding on the door, trying to wake us up. And some of the things that they would say, I mean, I can't say it on here, but I mean, that's the rivalry right there. The Kansas State one, KU's just been so dominant with that one, and it's still a pretty big rivalry, but Mizzou that was the real deal there.
What's because a home game is known around the basketball community at Kansas as like one of the best atmospheres, and that's, I mean, Bill Self talks about it every now and then, but that rock chalk J, like, when you first hear that and you're playing there, like what's going through your mind?
Well, you got to win, because that's
yeah. You got to win, obviously.
When I went down for my official visit, I actually committed before I went down for my official visit. So we went down my senior year in high school for late. It was called Late Night with Roy Williams back then. I think now it's just, I don't even know what it's called now, late night. But every year they opened up on October 15th, and we had me on the visit, myself. We had Quentin Richardson, Jerron, we had a couple other guys, big name. Corey Maggette was there, and I think Mike Miller.
Wow, dude.
So it was us 5 on a visit, and that's my first time experiencing Allen Fieldhouse. And the one thing I always say is when you're playing, I think you kind of take it for granted. Like that's the standard, that's the expectation. You get that every game. And then when I'm out of it, and I've only been back a few times for a game just because my schedule doesn't allow it, but it's like you're kind of more in awe now than you were playing, because you kind of tune everything out when you're playing, and at least I did anyways. So you kind of realize it more now than I did, like how awesome that was. And to be able to play in front of a packed house every single night, you knew no matter, win or lose the game before, you knew you were going to play in front of 16,300. And, and it's it's amazing how a home court can give you so much energy. And the Kansas basketball fans are so smart. They know when a team needs energy, and like at our place here at Pitt or, anywhere on the road, like teams cheer, when good things happen. Kansas fans understand that, hey, our guys need us right now. They're struggling. Let's get loud. And that's the one unique thing about KU is their basketball fans are extremely smart. They understand. They understand what's needed, and I got to coach there my first year here at Pitt. My team, we played an exhibition game and we played KU, and we actually forced Coach Self to call 2 timeouts. We were up 21, 21-10 in the first 10 minutes, and down 5 at halftime, and then I think the halftime talk. I woke him up, and I think we ended up losing by like 33 or something like that. But that was pretty cool to be in the game at halftime against KU and to have a lead like we did, 21-10, and making Coach Self have to call 2 timeouts. That was pretty cool.
Man, that's a full circle moment.
Yeah.
I mean, played there and got to coach. All right, let's talk about the Final Four. This was a big one for you, 2002, and not only, 4-year starter at Kansas, you still lead in 3-pointers made. Is that it, right? At University of Kansas?
Yeah.
Okay. And 2002 had to be special for you for a couple of reasons. Number one, you were a senior, so you knew this was kind of last dance. Number two, you wanted to get something for Coach Williams, who's meant a lot to you since you were arguably 17. Yeah. You've got great teammates, like you mentioned, Heinrich, Emerson, Drew Gooden, all these guys. And it's kind of like, okay, this is our time.
Yeah.
What was that Final Four like for you?
Well, the run was, we lost that year. We lost our first game in Maui to not Boise State, but Ball State.
Really?
Yeah. So that was on ESPN, and we had Nick Collison was cramping. The whole second half, had to be consistently taken out. And then the last play of the game where Ball State scored to win it, Aaron Miles was guarding little point guard, and he started sliding his feet and backing up. He cramped and he fell over, and their point guard went in and scored the layup, and they ended up beating us. And that was after that game. Coach, obviously upset, but I remember in the post game we had snack that night before we went to bed, and he talked to us about his 93 or 92 Final Four team, or 91, 93 Final Four team. I can't remember which one, but he said we lost our first game of the year that season in 93, whatever it was, and we ended up making the Final Four that year. So I think that's something that always kind of stuck in the back of our mind. Like we understood how good we were going to be, and how good the chances of us being pretty good were there with the amount of players that we had coming back, the amount of experience. And, I can remember the first couple of practices of that year, like feeling like everything just clicked right away with our practices, as far as we didn't have to do a ton of install because we all knew what we were doing. The flow of practice, the flow of our offense just kind of ran smoothly. We knew all the plays already. And so everything just kind of hit right away. And then we went on a big run after we lost to Ball State. We went on a big run. I think we got to number 1 in the country that year. We ran through the Big 12. We were 16-0. That's the first time. I think maybe the only time anybody went through the Big 12 without losing a game, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we went 16-0 that year, and we ended up losing the conference tournament championship to Oklahoma, who made the Final Four as well. So we had Missouri that year made the Elite Eight. So it wasn't, Texas was right there with TJ Ford. I think they made a Sweet 16. So like our conference was just as legit as the Big 12 is now. And we had some of the best teams in the entire country in our league, and for us to go 16-0 was pretty special. But the run that we went on, once the tournament started, the first game we had, was scared with Holy Cross. Kirk Heinrich goes down and has a really bad sprained ankle. And I think we end up beating Holy Cross, which was a 16 team at the time. I think we only beat them by like 10 or 11 points. They were up late on us. And then from there, we demolished Stanford. I can remember Casey Jacobson, who I think works for Fox now, making a statement in the post game about Heinrich not playing, and they're not as good when Heinrich's not playing. Well, obviously we heard that, and we busted. I think we beat them by 30. And then the Sweet 16 game against Coach Self and his Illinois team, they had beat us the prior year, my junior year in San Antonio in the Sweet 16, and just really out-toughed us. And they pushed us around and really just bullied us that whole game. And so this year, we were a little bit more ready for it, and we got fortunate there. And then the Elite Eight game, we played Oregon, Luke Ridenour, Luke Jackson, some of those guys, and we beat them pretty handily in the Elite Eight game, and then obviously made it to the Final Four. But just that run was so fun. I mean, just going to a Final Four practice, having 20,000 people there watching you practice, and just the publicity, the media attention. The week leading up to that Final Four, we had media day, media presence at practice every single day. Like they'd set up Allen Fieldhouse with chairs all over the place for each one of us players, and they would have media coming around, and it's a whole different level than anything else as far as the media attention. And obviously we came up short against Maryland, and I always say if Drew Gooden would have had a little bit better game, we probably win that game. He struggled shooting the basketball, struggled really with everything, got into some foul trouble, and they were really good. Juan Dixon, Steve Blake, Chris Wilcox, Lolly Baxter. I mean, a really good basketball team. And really that year it was us, Maryland, and Duke that were kind of in and out between the number one team in the country all year.
Take me into the locker room with Coach Williams. This has always been in my mind, but what does Coach Williams say to you guys pregame before the Final Four?
Oh, geez.
Was it like a good speech, like a motivational thing, or just like, hey, let's go take care of business? What was it like? Yeah,
I mean, Coach Williams was always... And that's something as a college coach now, you always try to find the right words to say, like what's going to push the buttons. But really, with that team, I feel like, our motivation was internal. He didn't have to do too much. I always was really impressed with the things he had to say before games, and he was never just a rah-rah guy. Sometimes you see on Twitter, seeing these coaches getting all fired up. He's more talking to us, and he'd always list 3 bullet points that he would go over and then give a little pep talk. But, that team was just so internally motivated, and it didn't take much for us to get up to play games. But yeah, he nothing special, but got the 3 points across and gave us a little bit of motivation. We're out there playing.
A kid that made an impact on the Final Four also from Devils Lake, Grant Nelson. Yep. Have you talked to? Do you and Grant share like any DMs or anything, or have you reached out to him? You guys talked?
No, I did actually. So one of his assistant coaches this past 2 years, Ryan Pannone. He just took the Arkansas State job. So I've got to know him a little bit just through text and just kind of bouncing ideas off of him as far as offensively, defensively, different things. I've followed him just with some of his YouTube stuff and coaching clinics type stuff. So, I just, told Ryan to pass along a congrats to Grant and told Ryan that I'm from North Dakota as well, and so hopefully he did that. But no, I had not ever reached out to Grant or anything like that.
Yeah, North Dakota hoops. Before we hopped on, there's some good players that are starting to come out of your homestead. I mean, Trace Neaglestaff making a splash this offseason.
Where do you end up? Is it Indiana?
Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah, he ended up going to West Virginia, and I mean, Grant and him go battling in Grand Forks was really special. To have Alabama Alabama come to UND, and then we talked about Lily Bell from Minot High, who's getting some really good looks, and there's a lot of players around the state. When you go on these recruiting trips and you're trying to recruit kids, do you ever bring up like, hey, there's something special here, and if you let me, I'll bring you to that special level? Or what's like your recruiting pitch?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with us is just selling us as people. I mean, I think being a coach, and I think it's kind of my North Dakota background too, is, there's a lot of things that I've ran into with listening to kids that have either transferred in or listening to other recruiting pitches from other coaches. Like, there's a lot of dishonesty, I would say, in this profession. And in the sense to try to get a kid, and then when a kid gets there, it's probably not what he wants it to be. I want the parents and the kid to understand, like, this is who you're going to get. Like, we're not going to change as people because of our win-loss record. My first year here at Pitt was a struggle. We went 8-20, and the biggest thing that I learned at Pitt or that year was be the same person when things are going bad. Like, the same positivity you're preaching when you start that first preseason meeting in that locker room. And when there is no adversity and you're going through the preseason practices and there's so much optimism and every player thinks that they're going to play, and there's no turmoil, like, be that same person when things are going bad. And, we pride ourselves on, being a positive coaching staff, an uplifting coaching staff, but understanding we're going to hold you accountable. Like, you're going to do things the way we want our standards to be upheld. And if that doesn't fit you, then you got to find another place to go. But, our biggest thing to me is just being a good person, and understand we're going to make you better as a player. We're going to work with you on the court. And we're going to watch film with you. We want to know about your life. We want to know about your family. We want to know about what's going on in your personal life. And, at the end of the day, when you're done here, obviously you want to get your degree, but we want to know what's going on with your life after basketball too. And try to make it as much as a family atmosphere as you possibly can. And I think that I can't tell a kid one thing, and there's one thing I always tell a parent is, I'm not promising you this. I'm not promising you a playing time. I'm not promising you a starting spot. You've got to earn it. And, we're not dumb coaches. Like, we're not gonna, if you help us win, like, we're going to play you. Like, and if you don't help us win, then, you're probably not going to get as much playing time. And, so I just can't look a kid and their parent in the eye and tell them one thing, and then when they get here, it's totally different. And that I just can't, I guess lack of better words, live my life like that. So, I just want to be upfront with them and let them know that what you get out of it is what you're going to put into it. And if you put in the work, you put in the time, the effort, and you do the things that we want you to do on the court, off the court, like, it'll work out for you.
You sold me, man. I'm ready to run through a wall. That was phenomenal. There's a book growing up, like I said at the beginning, that really was a big influence on me, and it was your book. It was the Long Shot. How was that to put that together? I mean, it's a writing and putting together some of these stories, and what a title, The Long Shot. I mean, take me through that process.
Yeah. So Jared Haas, who played at KU before I got there, he had a book out called Floor Burns. And the author of that, Mark Horvath, that was his first book. And so when I got done, he had reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing it. Jared's was more of a documentary, or like a journal entries, where Jared would actually do the writing, and he would send it to Mark, and Mark would print it up and obviously correct on any English type stuff. But so mine was more of an interview process. So Mark came and he wanted to more or less tell my story, go through some of the experiences firsthand from me, and some of the things that went on with me at KU, not just on the basketball court, but also my personal life. so at first when he did it, or when he contacted me, I really didn't want to do it. And, just, I guess the reasons, just I'm pretty, low key, quiet guy. I don't really like my life to be out there like that. But the more I thought about it, and then obviously he threw the money aspect of it into play, and that influenced me a little bit too, coming out of college. So it was a process of probably, I think, about 7-8 months of him coming to Lawrence, interviewing me going to Chicago, interviewing there. And we literally would just go to like a park, and we would sit there for like 2-3 hours, and he would just interview me, asking me questions, asking me to tell stories. So it was a really unique dynamic, and Mark was a great guy. I recently found out he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was very easy to talk to. Like, I felt like I could open up, and I think that was the other thing too. Doing it is kind of like trusting him. I think that was another aspect of kind of why I didn't want to do it. But the more I got to know him and talk to him, like I felt like I could trust him with what he wanted to do, and and then obviously just he would send me the draft of each chapter, and kind of I would read it over, and if there was anything in there that I didn't want put in there, for privacy reasons, and I would tell him. And then he put it together, and we went through it. When he finished, he came down. We went through it and kind of talked about it, and then went through the whole process of getting it printed. And then I'd do a ton of book signings. I went all over the state of Kansas, but just did book signings. That was a pretty cool experience. I mean, to go to a book signing and see, people wrapped around the store and coming in for, 2-3 hours straight of me signing autographs, taking pictures. That was probably the hardest part, just because it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And at that time when I was younger, I wasn't a great people person. I'm still not a great people person, but that was exhausting. But I'm glad I did it. And I still get every once in a while people's mail me a book for me to sign, or my mom will get some requests to some people back in Valley City or North Dakota that are looking for the book, and my mom still has a bunch of them down in the basement. So pretty cool. And I don't know if I'll ever let my daughters read it, but I don't know.
You should do an audio book where you read it and it'll be available on Audible or like any of these book ones. That would be awesome. But yeah, growing up, my best friend Trevor Tomte, his aunt, I think, went to one of your signings, so she sent him back for Christmas one of the signed books, and I was so pissed off.
Came up to North Dakota for a signing too.
Yeah, you might have, but yeah, he had a signed book, and I was so jealous and pissed, because we would all like share the book and read it. And but man, thanks for sharing that. I got to give a shout out to our guy that linked this up. Shout out Joe Cattell, infamous Joe. He's a great guy, and I really enjoy working with him. But well, listen, man, this has been so fun for me, and I truly appreciate from the bottom of my heart you represent North Dakota and what you've done with your life. And I'm a PITT State fan now. I got to get some merch. That shirt you're wearing is tremendous. And some on swim lessons that we do at the end. Every guest. Jeff, leave us with something that you look to bring you out of a dark time into the light, and maybe somebody listening to this podcast make it applicable to their life.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think just everybody, kind of like we alluded to earlier, like going through tough times, like everybody goes through it. Everybody has their issues, and understanding that everybody's going through something, and always to be a great person, somebody that when you walk up to them, like you have that comforting feeling of them knowing that they can talk to you. And one thing I've learned from I guess my wife per se, like my wife is like a very very talkative like can talk to a wall type person. And one thing I've learned from her is just being a more like positive person, trying to eliminate complaining as much as you can. And she's taught me a lot about just being able to communicate and talk with people. And that's one thing I think in life is just being able to be able to be more open, be a great communicator. I think that's one of the big things in life is just being able to be an open book and be somebody that somebody can come talk to. And I just think the more that you can put positivity in your life and understanding that, the world is like energy, and what kind of energy are you bringing off when you walk into a room? Do you have a positive vibe when you meet somebody, or you're a doom and gloom person, complainer? And I think that gets you a long ways in life, and everybody says it, and to be as positive as you possibly can. And I don't think it's attainable to perfection, but understanding when you do get in those dark times and you do struggle, like you got to find a way to get out of it. And I think positivity is, and listening to the podcast and listening to, these professional guys speak and, to help you get out of those times is huge. I've leaned on like a lot of people like John Gordon, Ed Milet, people like that to really help me when times are tough, to understand that, you do got it pretty good. And your struggles sometimes that seem big probably aren't that big in the grand scheme of things. And there's a lot of people in life that are struggling way worse than you. And, just as much as you can influence and put positivity in your life and try to eliminate as much complaining as you can, I think that helps you out down the road.
Beautiful. Well, Coach Boschee, give us a quick plug where people can follow you and become a fan of PITT State.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not very active on social media. The Instagram is just at J Boschee, I believe. And then same thing on Twitter, Facebook as well. And I've kind of started to, I used to accept everybody. Now I've kind of,
that's tough. Yeah.
I did, it kind of do my checks and balances to see if I know this person or not. But, on Twitter, I'm all over Twitter, and Instagram and Facebook, but, PITT State basketball, we're on Twitter as well and Instagram. And, we've had this has been my third year. First year was a struggle. My second year, we made the NCAA tournament. And this past year, we had the player of the year in the league, finished second in the league and did some good things. And so we're going to have a whole new team next year. We got 10 new guys coming in and lost. Obviously we lost the player of the year. He transferred. He's going to Tennessee, Chattanooga. So I'm excited to follow him to see how he does. And I think we got a good thing going here, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Awesome. Well, hey man, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And let's go PITT State. Let's go, Coach Boschee. Let's go. Let's get these boys playing.
We're always a grill up, baby. Like that Morgan Wallen picture in the background too. That's
that new album is fantastic.
I love the new album. It's a good one.
Oh man, that Superman song. I just had a son. He's 6 months old, Cade, and I heard that song, and I like it. It almost moved me to tears. So I was at Target, and I'm like, that'd be a good podcast background. Just the album. Yeah.
It's a prime example of what we were just talking about. Just you're gonna make mistakes, and you're just another man.
That's right, just another man. Well, you are the man. So appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.